guys, thanks a lot for joining me for this update. This is my roughly 2.5 month postpartum update. I actually did like a 1 month update on my blogs, things that I've been dealing with and learning about after 1 month with a baby. And I thought it would just be a good idea to do a video like this just to update you guys on how things are going. I know there are so many other women out there who are watching my pregnancy vlogs while pregnant, and so it only makes sense to kind of continue on and say, okay, this is how things are going now. I asked on my Facebook page and my Twitter what some good things would be to talk about in this video, so thank you so much for giving me some of those ideas. But first off, I want to just say thank you so much to anybody who has sent me something to my P.O. box. You have no idea. We've just been overwhelmed by the amazingness of you guys, the things you've sent to us, the talent that you have, the handmade gifts, the generosity of just the things that you've compiled and sent my way. But if you've sent me a gift, I've sent a thank you note back to you, and I've got a stack of thank you notes waiting to go out now. You guys are just so kind and so giving, and I thank you so much for that. Me, Tyler, I'm sure Belle would say thank you too if she could. But we've just been completely overwhelmed by that support, so we really, really, truly appreciate that. And I don't want anybody to feel like they need to be sending us anything, but those of you who have, you know, done so because you really wanted to, I just thank you. Thank you so much. Now I'm kind of looking down at my list here because you guys gave me some good ideas of things to talk about. One of the big things people brought up was like asking what things were different than what you thought, you know, going into having a baby. And the first thing that I would say is don't be overly concerned with labor and delivery and actually having the baby, because the real work, the real project begins after that. I just think during those whole 9 months I had so much focus on actually just having the baby and getting to the hospital. Not that I wasn't preparing myself as well for when the baby was here. I'm not saying I was completely blindsided, like, oh my gosh, there's this baby. Like, I knew that was coming, but you know what I mean? There's so much, like, I think mental stress placed on the actual birth, when really, fortunately for me, that went incredibly easy. And the real stress and the real, you know, trying times come once that baby is new in your house and you're trying to realize, you know, how do I deal with this? How do I respond to all these needs? You know, she's crying, I've tried everything. What do I do? Those are the moments that I think are the harder times. So don't be too stressed out about the labor part. There's a doctor there, or some people have midwives or whatever, you know, it's someone's responsibility to help you with that time. Another thing that was different from what I thought was breastfeeding. I think that's put out there that breastfeeding is, you know, is not a painful experience. It's just, you know, a real calming, relaxing bonding moment with the baby. And to be honest, for me, it has been a little painful. And I'm going to get into that more as this video goes along, but if you read my 1 month update on the blog, I mean, it didn't really come easily. I have continued to do it. I've continued to power through some times that were not so comfortable. Bottom line, I think that there can be some pain associated with breastfeeding, and it doesn't always mean you're doing it wrong. Another thing that was different from what I thought is some days just not having time for even the smallest, most basic needs that you personally might have for yourself. One thing that comes to mind, when I met Mally, you know, we were talking about all the things she does. You know, she's running her makeup business, she's being on QVC, she's got a family, and she was telling me, I will never forget this line. When I met her in New York, she said, honey, sometimes I don't even have time to take a dump. And I remember thinking, you might be exaggerating that a little bit. Like, I'm sure you have time to take a dump, right? Well, now those words are resonating with me a little bit more because there are times where you've got that baby, she's bawling, you're like, when was the last time I even went to the bathroom? Come to think of it, I really have to go to the bathroom. Or, you know, there's not even time to heat something up in the microwave because I've got to be dealing with this situation. There is a need to be so incredibly selfless once you have that baby. And I know there are times where, you know, you maybe can set up a routine and the baby starts to learn how to fall into that a little bit more. But when they are so brand new, they are the boss, you know, they are running your world. And the degree to which they do that is something that I don't think you can really grasp until they are there in your life. So just, if you haven't had your baby yet, just let that thought simmer in the back of your head for a while. There are gonna be days where it's very difficult to get anything done for you. So just keep that in mind, that there will be days like that. Not every day's gonna be like that though. And doing the whole working from home thing while you have this tiny baby, that was different from what I thought too. For some reason I had it in my head that, oh, because I'm in my home, this is all going to be easy. It's not easy. You know, that baby is having needs nonstop, so you have to become very creative with the time that you use for your work. And I'm actually going to do an entire video devoted to just some things that I've come up with to make the working at home while having a baby, making that all work together. Can you tell there were a lot of things that were different from what I thought? On a smaller scale, the diapers don't smell, and I really like changing them, actually. I'm not sure, is it a different story if it's if you're feeding your baby formula? Maybe they do have smelly diapers. But it just kind of amazed me how it's like, hey, this doesn't stink, and plus she's so happy on her changing table. We have a little downstairs changing station set up in our bedroom, and there is a mirror from our dresser like right beside the pad that she's laying on, and she just loves looking in there and looking up at me, and she seems so happy. And I mean, even if she's really upset and she doesn't need a diaper change, sometimes I'll lay her down there and it's like her zen place. I don't know what it is, but I enjoy the diaper changing, and I think Tyler even does too. Another thing different from what I expected is feeling so incredibly connected to another human being. Like when I look into those big brown eyes, I think, I feel you. You know, I totally feel you. I mean, when I look at her, I see myself in a sense. I just feel like that is an extension, like an out-of-body extension of myself. You feel so connected. That's the only word I can really come up with to say it. So those are some things that were just kind of different from my pre-baby expectations. But some other things that I wanted to bring up in this video, something that really helped us out so much after having Belle was food. Food from friends and family, friends who might drop by a lunch now and then. If people offer to do that, take them up on it. It's really, really nice to have that. And also my mom and my sister really got us going with some food in our freezer that we could easily heat up in the oven, or they'd come and make us food and then we'd have a bunch of leftovers that we could heat up. And like when Tyler's mom was visiting, you know, just kind of jumping in there and made us breakfast one morning. Like stuff like that has been so nice. I think it's just really nice for those people who come and visit you and realize like, yeah, we want to see the new baby and all this stuff, but also having that knowledge that, hey, mama and daddy here need to eat. It's really nice when people jump in and help you out in those ways. So thank you to everybody who's done that. Another thing I thought I'd cover here is just how Belle is doing and her visits to the doctor. She is doing great. She had her 2-month checkup here recently, and the doctor says she's looking great and healthy. He says he has a hunch that she's going to be petite like me. I am only 5 feet tall, by the way, and she is only right now in the 8th percentile for her height. She's weighing in right now at just between 10 and 11 pounds, and you know, they measure their head and everything like that. He said everything's looking really good and proportional. We haven't run into any issues where we've had to call up the doctor or any emergency situations. But I think the big thing has just been seeing her personality kind of develop a little bit. We love, and she seems to love too, like just laying out on a blanket on the floor and you just get right on top of her. She loves to examine faces and try to, I think, mimic facial expressions at times, and she's getting so smiley, which is amazing. Trying her hardest to repeat noises and sounds that you'll make. We get in this thing where I say hi to her over and over, and sometimes she peeps out a word that really sounds like hi, I swear. So that's a lot of fun. So she's got a real good-natured, sweet side to her personality, but then don't let her fool you because she can get very, very angry. She's had a lot of times that would lead me to believe that she's a pretty fussy baby. When she cries, she will wail. She'll do it loudly. Sometimes it's like she goes from 0 to 60. It's like, wait, I didn't even have time to try X, Y, and Z yet, and you're already like, wah! So all I can say is, girlfriend's got a personality. She's got demands, and those demands will be met. She will see to it. Hi guys, I'm back. I join you from a new location, a poorly lit location, so I'm sorry I don't have lighting down here. There's another thing I didn't expect about having a baby, how much time you will spend in a glider, and I'm actually feeding her right now as we speak, and so I guess it's appropriate to talk about breastfeeding. I was saying before how I have endured some pain with breastfeeding. And I remember being in the hospital and there were lactation consultants. There was one that came in and like met with me, and nurses, you know, helped with the correct way to get the baby to latch on. So I was aware of, you know, the right way to do things where that's concerned. But even going through like the breastfeeding classes and everything, they talk about how natural it is for the baby to, you know, latch onto your breast and know that that's how they will get their food. And that is kind of miraculous. And I do think babies get that that's where their milk is coming from. But that baby has a tiny mouth, and my nipple has frankly tripled in size during pregnancy. Sorry, but I mean, the area surrounding it really expanded so much. And the baby is supposed to get a good amount of the areola in their mouth when they're feeding. Sorry if this is overshare, but I'm just trying to tell you what's going on here. And to actually position the baby properly so they're getting a nice deep latch, that just doesn't happen magically, and it doesn't happen by the baby just like roaming their head over to your boob and then grabbing on and yay, it's all perfect. I find, and the nurses in the hospital told me I would need to do this, that I need to, you know, compress the area somewhat and really make an effort to get her to open her mouth as wide as humanly possible for a little baby to really get the appropriate latch. When you're not getting a good latch, chances are you're going to be dealing with some pain in the nipple area. And I was talking to my mom about all this, of course, have been on and off the entire time. And she was telling me how she didn't have any issues, you know, breastfeeding. She didn't recall anything painful with it. So I know a lot of people go through this with nothing. And over the past 2.5 months for me, I think the situation has really evolved. And one thing to keep in mind, and my doctor even alluded to this, is that your body, your breasts and nipples are doing something that they have never done before. And it totally makes sense to me that when you go from having nipples that have never been nommed on by a baby before to having a baby eating off of them constantly every 2 hours, chances are there's going to be a little period of transition there, right? Things are going to be pretty sensitive for a while. And so they were in the beginning for me. Now as a whole, I would say there's less sensitivity. I do still have a decent amount of pain when she latches on. And even the experts say that that can be common when you first get them on there and your milk is letting down and all that good stuff. But the rest of the feed, obviously I can, you know, sit here and talk to you. I can carry on a conversation and things are going fine. But to be perfectly transparent with you guys, I have had some dry and cracked nips, and that Laniso, what's it called? Lancino? Pure lanolin ointment stuff has really done a good job, and you don't have to remove that before you feed. And I'm gonna link below to some videos that helped me as I was trying to really perfect the latch of my child. But one additional tip that I had looked up, and it didn't work for me at first, but now it totally does, and I think it's been the key that's helped me get through all this. Somebody in an article or a comment to something somewhere was talking about how, you know, they were struggling to get the baby to open wide for feeding. And they said they used actually the length of their finger in that little spot between their lower lip and chin to help them open wider and drop that jaw down a little bit. You don't want to use the tip of your finger because that's kind of easy for them to see that coming and maybe mistake that for the nipple, and then they're trying to bite on it. And at first when I would do this, Belle would go like trying to go after my finger, like what's that there? But I kept doing it, and now I don't even hardly have to, you know, press. Not that I was ever really pressing hard, but I don't have to do much at all, but just place it there. And she's taking that as a cue to, okay, now it's time to open wide. And I know you point the nipple up to the nose and that should help them open wide as well, but especially in the early days, that never got her to open wide enough. So when I do that, she really will open wide, and that's my best shot at getting a lot of the nipple and surrounding area in there as deep as it should be. But I guess the takeaway from all this breastfeeding talk, if you're in my shoes or you're gonna be in my shoes soon, it can potentially be really frustrating. And there are plenty of reasons why someone might decide that they would rather do formula, and whatever works for you, go for it. We're all individuals with our own reasons and our own situations. But I feel like much of the material that I was fed about, oh, no pun intended, much of the material that I was given about breastfeeding kind of leads you to believe that, you know, it's just a perfectly natural, wonderful, easy thing. And I just don't want you to be too discouraged if that's not your initial experience with it. You know, it's kind of like makeup in that sometimes it just takes some tips and tricks and just a few little adjustments to your approach to make it work for you. But as far as pain level, it's gotten much, much better since the early days. A lot of people asked about weight loss, getting your body back. I think this goes hand in hand with breastfeeding. You know, I did not think that things were gonna return to normal or close to normal as quickly as they did, but I do credit breastfeeding for this because it's not like I've been working out like crazy. I haven't had the time. I had gained about 35 pounds during the pregnancy, and I've lost nearly all of that now. But I'd be lying if I said like my lower abs feel completely as firm as they did before pregnancy, because they don't. And I know that that's something I can work on through getting some little workouts in probably right here around the house. People asked about baby blues and if I experienced that, and I know right after you have a baby, you've got a huge shift in your hormones. Like as soon as you, I guess, deliver that placenta, you know, things are really rapidly changing in your body. And for me, I do think I felt extremely emotional, like after having Belle. Not just emotional in a raw, you know, upset bad way, but just kind of more sensitive, maybe might be the word. And also in that first couple of weeks, chances are you are extremely sleep deprived. And what does sleep deprivation do to me? It makes me more emotional, less patient, more irritable. So I think just the lack of sleep can play into your attitude a whole heck of a lot, and just the way you handle your days. You know, if you're running on very little sleep, everything seems harder. And I definitely had some moments where, you know, okay, your parents are gone, Tyler's back to work, and I'm at home alone, and I can't get her to stop crying. I feel so overwhelmed. And yeah, there have been times where she's crying, I'm crying, Cupcake's like, what the heck do I do here? And in those moments, you feel like you're so like down in the trenches with dealing with this baby stuff, and all you can see is, you know, that day and that situation, and it's hard, but you've really got to try in those moments when you're sleep deprived and you're emotional to look big picture and say, okay, I've got this baby. This is a beautiful miracle. This is a beautiful thing. I think it might be virtually impossible to keep that attitude 100% of the time, but that's what you kind of have to try to look to and come back to in those times where you feel like, you know, am I failing at this? Or you're feeling kind of helpless in your skill level. You know, you can do this. But I think it's totally normal to have those emotional and frankly kind of discouraged moments. But I think the more you see yourself, you know, do more things and overcome more situations, the better you're gonna feel, the more your confidence level is gonna go up. Even in a couple months here, I've just noticed my comfort level and my confidence has gotten a lot better. Somebody just got done, so she's gonna have a little burp action here, so hope you don't mind my rocking. People were asking about skin and hair related issues, if I've had any of that coming along post-pregnancy. And first off, my big skin issue during pregnancy was my melasma. If you've tuned into my other channel, you've probably heard me talk about that multiple times. But that was the discoloration I was experiencing right on the tops of my cheeks. And it's amazing, I haven't been doing any big skincare treatments or anything like that, just been, you know, keeping my skin clean like I normally would. And that has just faded so much on its own after having the baby. And that was the same thing that happened for my mom. So I'm glad, you know, that ended up happening for me too. I would say it's almost totally gone at this point, now 2.5 months after having her. As far as hair, my mom had said, you know, sometimes people deal with some hair loss after having the baby. I've not noticed any of that. Normally I'm pretty perceptive to that. I can pick up on if, you know, I'm losing hair in the shower or stuff like that. So that I have not noticed. What I have seen, and this might just be a hormonal issue, but my scalp has been more oily than normal. Has anybody else experienced that? I don't know what that's about, but I'm dealing as best I can. But another thing people asked about was how Cupcake has been dealing with Belle, and you know, she's changing a few diapers here and there, you know, helping out with feedings, but no, she has been really, really sweet. She wants to be in the same room, it seems like, as me a lot, and I'm of course in the same room as Belle pretty much all the time, and so it's like she just wants to be part of things, but she never gets too close. She barely will like come up and sniff maybe the rockin' plate. And then just to wrap this up, I thought I would point out that the huge thing that has not been spoken of in this video, but that is super, super important to the whole situation is Tyler. Tyler is a freaking rock star dad. I mean, I could not be more impressed. I am in awe of him. He gets home from work and he jumps in to help me out with whatever it might be. You know, he wants to hold her, play with her, do whatever. And it's not just that he seems to be a partner in sharing the workload that a baby creates, like doing laundry, getting dinner together and different things, but he just emotionally is so invested in this child. He just loves this little girl so much, and you can see it all over his face. And it's not just me being his wife and seeing him with her and thinking, oh, isn't that precious? But like other people too, like my parents are here and they're like, wow, he is good, you know? He's good with her, but he's just a natural. That's the only way to put it. So I got very lucky. Belle got very lucky having a Tyler. He is a class act person. You know, I really expected that he would be a fantastic dad, but not every day with a baby is rainbows and cupcakes, you know? I mean, there are difficult times and you're sleep deprived and it could be easy to just snap on someone, real easy. But I have got to give that guy props because he has done so well. He has just been, there just aren't words. So thank you, Tyler. Thank you, bub. I love you so much, and I'm just truly, truly grateful for each day. Feeling so happy for her health, and I just can't thank you guys enough for being so wonderfully supportive in comments anywhere, and you know, anywhere I post a picture of her, everybody is just so sweet and sharing in the excitement, and that is just really, really cool. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you guys, and if you'd like me to do these updates on a monthly basis, maybe that's something I can do. Again, it's a journey, and you may have followed it all throughout my pregnancy, so it only kind of makes sense to give some updates along the way. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.